Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, and I am the host of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. If you are enjoying this show, you should also check out the Premier Boys Podcast, hosted by myself, Aaron Kintok Sands, the Star Rider Rod, and Long Live the Chief Mighty Mal, where we discuss many topics within the culture, from music, love, relationships, sex, politics, and many more. We could make you laugh, but the show could also get a little raunchy and may not be for everybody. But if you're willing to take that risk, check out the Premier Boys Podcast every Wednesday, a part of the Premier Powerverse. Other show you could check out on the Premier Powerverse is King Talk with Aaron Sands, hosted by Aaron King Talk Sands every Friday at 12 p.m. Star Time Podcast hosted by the Star Rider Rod every Monday at 12 p.m. And Welcome to the Trilogy hosted by Long Live the Chief Mighty Mal every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Listen and support on every show in the Premier Powerverse. Thank you for listening to this message and enjoy the show. You are now listening to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast Season 8. Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, 1/4 of the Premier Boys Podcast, and your host of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And welcome to another new episode of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Hope all is well. And on this episode, it is a solo episode, and I will be discussing the origin of the MrGentleman name. So we're going to talk about how we got to this point and many more. And y'all already know what to do. Sit back, relax, and I'll be right back.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Mook Dallas, and you are now listening to the MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. And that's it's time. The time for MrGentleman Facts, quote of the day. And today's quote of the day is, don't expect something to happen because you want something to happen in your life right now. And I say this because we all want something to happen in our life, but life, it takes time. And something not going to happen because you want something to happen. If you had that mindset of wanting something to happen right now, you're just going to end up disappointed. So always remember, don't expect something to happen because you want something to happen right now. Just take things slow, and it will happen to you when the time is right. And that is today, MrGentleman Facts, quote of the day. Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, and I am the host of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And this commercial break is brought to you by MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. On MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast, we interview many guests about their life journey, pretty much where they come from and where they at now. Also promoting their brands or whatever they're doing at the time they come on the show. We also have the host talk about personal stories about himself and everything that he's been through. And also we have fun conversation about anything music, anything old school, relationships, wrestling, and many more. And y'all can tune in to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast every Sundays at 12 a.m. We are also on every Thursdays at 12 a.m. for Spin-Off Series Thursdays, where we have all of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast spin-off series all in one day, where we have a conversation about music podcast every first Thursday at 12 a.m. The Old School Show with myself and the Star Rider Rod every fourth Thursday at 12 a.m. And we have Date Night Talk Podcast with myself and Miss Vanna B every second and third Thursdays at 12 a.m. And y'all can tune in to Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, The Pods, and many more. Or y'all can check it out on the official website of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast, www.realmrgentlemanlifestylepodcast.com, www.realmrgentlemanlifestylepodcast.com, and tune in every Sundays and Thursdays at 12 a.m. for Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in to this commercial break of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Back to your regularly scheduled program. Cheer!
What's up, friends? It's your girl, Sierra Coco from The What Lounge, and you're listening to Mr. Gentleman's Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. And at this time, it's time for another solo episode of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And we'll be discussing the origin of the name Mr. Gentleman. And the reason why I'm doing this topic is because I never spoke about this topic on the show. Only time I spoke about this is when I was on other podcast platforms, or I spoke brief about the topic, but I never gave it a full episode. And don't worry, this won't be a long episode. This will be pretty short. But growing up, always been trying to find myself. I've always been trying to find an identity that fit me. And I feel like I never really had that, you know, especially because I was always quiet and never really felt like I fit in at all. I always felt like I was out of place. And plus, I had the same name my father. And every time they said Kenneth, they would be calling him. I felt like they were not calling me. So as time went on, you know, I always been trying to find myself. Find something that not only fit me, but find something that I was talented in. Because I felt like I was talented in. I felt like I was not a talented kid at all. So one day, you know, I started, you know, I love music. You know, I listened to music a lot growing up. And I just love it. One day I wanted to start writing songs. And I wrote my first song called Sun, which was a comedy song. But as time went on, I started writing poetry. And I started to be really good at it. As I started writing poetry, I started to write songs again. And I got even better at writing songs. So when I was in high school, that's all I really was doing, writing songs and just trying to find myself. You know, I made some friends, and we end up having something in common, which was our love for music. I know at the time we were in over our heads, but we wanted to give it a shot. So 11th grade, we started a music group, and we named the group Blaze of Glory. And I needed to figure out an artist name for myself. So I was going through many things, calling myself the Poetry Man, the Ken, and many other things. But then I decided to tell people to start calling me Ken. And I didn't want to do that because every time you think of Ken, you think of the Barbie doll Ken. But at this point, you know what? I didn't care because I wanted to create something that fit me. But I do need an artist name. I wasn't going to call myself Ken as an artist name. So I decided to name myself Ken, a.k.a. Mr. Soul Star. And how that name came together was Music Soul Child, third album, Soul Star, which I really enjoyed that album. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to name myself Soul Star. But even though I would name Soul Star, I feel like I wasn't fully connected to that name. Even though people liked that name, I wasn't fully connected. I do feel like I wasn't embracing me. Exactly. I do feel like I wasn't claiming me. I just do feel like it was just a name. It wasn't who was me. So I ran with that name from 2005 to 2007. And when 2007 came, we wanted a change. So we decided to change our group name from Blaze of Glory to the Blaze of Click. And started to really take this new thing serious. And we started adding new people and stuff like that. But as time went on, I still wanted to change my name as well. Cause I didn't want to be known as the Soul Star no more. I wanted to create something that I knew that people is always going to remember me as. That I needed something that whatever name I pick, it wasn't just a name. It was going to be a lifestyle. It was going to be me living my truth. It had to be something that really was going to be me. So I decided to name myself Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman. And the reason why I named myself Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman, because Neo had a third album called The Year of the Gentleman. And I ain't gonna hold you, during that time, that was one of my favorite albums from Neo. You know, it really inspired me as an artist during that time. And I wanted to name myself Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman. But at the same time, Neo was known as the Gentleman. And I didn't want to use that name just in case I was to get known at one point at that time. I didn't want to get, in trouble for that name. But I asked many people, should I name myself this? And a lot of people say, yeah. And then I just ran with it. I still was trying to fill the name because I wanted this to be the name where I know that it will be remembered forever. And I use this name for many things, from music, from role with a promoter, and even now. But what made me really wanted to really use this name was because of one day I was promoting at Taj, either 2015, 2016. I was at the bottle service section, and this random girl who had me on social media came up to me and she was like, "Oh yeah, is your name Ken?" And I was like, "Yes." She came to me and said, "I just want to say thank you for the post that you posted on your page." During that time, I was just posting many inspirational quotes just because, and just posting it. I didn't think none of it at the time. And she told me that thank you for posting those quotes because it really helped me. After somebody told me that, I started to take the name Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman, really serious. And that when I realized that Mr. Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman, wasn't just a name anymore. It started to become a lifestyle. And that when I started to take things serious, when I started this thing called Mr. Gentleman, in fact, quote the day Thursdays, then became a thing on Mondays. And then that when the podcast started in 2019, which the name Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle actually started in 2018. But during that time, I was through trying to figure out what am I going to use this name for. I had many ideas at the time what I wanted to use this name for. I wanted to use it for a clothing brand because I was planning to make a brand for ties. Or I wanted to do it for a production company because during that time also I was writing scripts and doing comic books and stuff like that. And I was just really figuring out like what should I use this name for until one day a friend I know had a podcast on Anchor and I asked her what platform you got the podcast for? 'Cause I want to start a podcast myself. And he said on this Anchor is free. And that's when I wanted to do a podcast. But I still was trying to figure out a name for the podcast. And this was September of 2018. And as I got to December of 2018, the name Mr. Gentleman Like the Podcast was born. But the show wasn't born until January 20th. And yeah. Why this name is important to me? The name Mr. Gentleman, the name Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman, is important to me because, like I said, this name is not just a name. It's not just a character. This name is a lifestyle. This name is what made me me. If you see me now, I am Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman, and this name help other people in many ways from never giving up on some of the things that they want to do, from starting their own podcast, from having something to believe in. So Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman, is really important to me because it helped me to really live in my truth. But thank you everybody for listening to the episode, and I'll be right back. Hello everybody, this is your boy Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman. Now I am the host of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast, and this commercial break is brought to you by Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast presents Spinoff Series Thursdays. And Spinoff Series Thursday is the new home for Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast Spinoff Series that brought to you shows like A Conversation About Music Podcast, The Old School Show, and Date Night Talk Podcast. And A Conversation About Music Podcast is a music spin-off series where we talk about anything music, from the current music scene and the old school music scene, where we interview many guests that's in the music industry and artists about their music journey. We have a segment game called The Face Off, which is a versus inspired game. And we have roundtable discussion about variety of music topics. And y'all can check out A Conversation About Music Podcast every first Thursday at 12 a.m. Every first Thursday at 12 a.m. Now, the Old School Show that features myself and the star Roddy Rod is a show where we discuss anything old school, from music, TV shows, movies, and many more. We also bring in guests to join in on the old school conversation. Y'all can check out the Old School Show with myself and the star Roddy Rod every fourth Thursday at 12 a.m. Every fourth Thursday at 12 a.m. And last but not least, we have Date Night Talk Podcast with myself and Miss Vanna B, where we talk about anything relationship related topics like love, dating, relationships, cheating, the good and the bad, and many more. And y'all can check out this spin-off series, Date Night Talk Podcast, every second and third Thursday at 12 p.m. So look out for Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast presents Spin-Up Series Thursday, A Conversation About Music Podcast every first Thursday. The Old School Show with myself and the star Roddy Rod every fourth Thursdays, and Date Night Talk Podcast with myself and Miss Vanna B every second and third Thursdays. And y'all can check out Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast every Sundays for the main series and every Thursday for spin-off series Thursdays. And thank y'all for checking out this commercial break. And now back to your regularly scheduled program. True! I just want to take the time to thank everybody for tuning into the latest episode of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you for checking out the first 5 episodes of Season 8 of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Your support really means a lot, and thank y'all for continuing to tune in with me. It really, really means a lot. Y'all already know where Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast is at every Sundays for the main series, every Thursday for spin-off series Thursdays, where we have shows like a conversation about news podcast every first Thursday at 12 p.m. Date night talk podcast with myself and Miss Vanna B every second and third Thursday at 12 p.m. and the old school show with myself and the Star Rider Ride every fourth Thursday at 12 p.m. Spin-off Series Thursday will be returning in 2025, so look out for that. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Pandora, and many more. Y'all can rate the show. 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, by Chases. The more y'all rate the show, the more people know about Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Ken, a.k.a. Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Ken, a.k.a. Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. If you want to be a guest on Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast for Season 8, Season 9, or any other spin-off series shows, send me a bio about yourself and everything that you do to my email, kenypgent@gmail.com, or hit me up on social media, Ken_Mr. Gentleman. I repeat, Ken, Ken _Mr. MR Gentleman, GENTLEMAN, and we can set something up so I can have you on Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. You can also check me out on the Premier Boys Podcast with myself, Aaron Kiktok Sands, the Star Rider Rod, and Long Live the Chief Mighty Mel every Wednesday at 12 p.m., a part of the Premier Powerverse Network. Other shows that you can check out on Premier Powerverse Network: King Talk with Aaron Sands, hosted by Aaron King Talk Sands. New episode every Friday at 12 p.m. Season 5 coming soon. Star Time Podcast hosted by the Star Rider Rod. You can check out all episodes right now on Star Time Podcast. And welcome to the trilogy hosted by Long Live the Chief Mighty Mal. New episodes coming real soon. Listen and support every show in the Premier Podverse. And y'all already know what time it is. Time for everybody's favorite segment. It's time for Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Shoutouts, where we spotlight 4 podcast shows and we give them their flowers. Last week, we spotlight the Geeky Dad Podcast, the Redefining Wellness Podcast, the Brown Skin Journey Podcast, and Chronicle of a Virgo Podcast. Check out those 5 shows that I shouted out last week. This week, we got 4 new shows that we will be shouting out. And the first show that we're going to talk about is Better Call Daddy Podcast, hosted by Raina Freeman Ross. Pretty much she interviewed many guests, discuss their life journeys, and her father give them advice at the end of every episode. I love this concept because this is very different for every other podcast. And I was definitely on Better Call Daddy Podcast. So check out that episode out as well. And listen to Better Call Daddy Podcast. The next show I'm going to talk about is the Doom Generation Podcast, hosted by Nicole and Tessa, where they review many movies. And they do it in a funny way. This show always makes me laugh. And I love listening to their shows. I listen to their show every chance that I get. And check out Doom Generation. They're doing a really dope thing. Shout out to them right now. The next show I'm talking about is Today We Laugh and Learn Podcast, hosted by Chris and Dev. They discuss many topics. And you could definitely, you just got to listen and you could definitely learn something from them. This show is really funny. And also check out Today We Laugh and Learn Podcast as well. And last show that we're going to talk about is Laugh and Listen Podcast, hosted by Ashley. And this podcast, she talk about anything music, from artists, news, albums, songs, and many more. This is one of my favorite podcast shows. One of my favorite podcast shows when it comes to music. Check out Laugh and Listen Podcast. And check out the 4 shows that I just mentioned. Better Call Daddy Podcast, Doom Generation, Today We Laugh and Learn, and Laugh and Listen Podcast. And that is this week, Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Shoutouts. Yeah! And of course, add me on Good Pods, Ken, Mr. Gentleman. Y'all already know Good Podcast to many independent podcasters. We can see what everybody listens to. We can recommend each other's shows, and we had the charts. And at the time for Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Achievement, where we spotlight everything Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast is doing. And of course, we got the Good Pod charts. And for top 100 shows, we are number 8 on the normal charts, and number 5 on the indie charts for exciting culture. We are number 1 for 17 days. We're number 1 for 17 days. And for personal journal, we are still number 1. We've been number 1 for 24 days. So thank you everybody who's been supporting Mr. Gentleman. Like that podcast, Good Podcast really means a lot. And add Good Podcast, because they got a really dope new update right now that's going to change the game. So add me on Good Podcast, Mr. Gentleman. And check out the official website of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast, www.realmrgentlemanlifestylepodcast.com, where you can listen to every episode of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. You can watch every video of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast from the audio version, from Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast TV, from the Mr. Gentleman Fact Quote of the Day, and many more. Check out every guest profile who's been on Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast, all 73 guests, and many more to come. Check out all my guest appearances that I've been on. More guest appearances coming soon. And of course, check out the official merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Store. We have shirts, hoodies, mugs, and many more. So support the store so we could upgrade our equipment for Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And check out the official merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Store and check out the official website www.realmrgentlemanlifestylepodcast.com. Once again, thank you for checking out this latest episode of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And thank you for checking out the first 5 episodes of season 8 of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. So next episode of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast will be premiering on November 10th. So catch up on the first 5 episodes of season 8, and I will bring you a new episode on November 10th. Have a good day or night, wherever you're listening to this episode.
Well, my name is Rafael Moran, and I'm the host of the Geeky Dad Podcast, and you're listening to the Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast.